Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about enumeration data type, or simply we can say enum. So in the previous lecture, we discussed wrapper class and how this particular class is going to be used. So I'm removing this here. Okay. So now when we come to enumeration type here, what is this enumeration type? So this is also one type of data structure here, and we can say a special kind of data structure in Java. So there are classes and there are enumeration data types, and enum is also considered as a class here. Here we are going to discuss two enums. One is enum with small e and the second one is called enum with capital E. So enum is a class here, and we are acquiring the properties of enum from enum. For example, if you take class A and class B, I want to acquire the properties of B from A, for example. What we are going to write here, class A extends B means what? We are acquiring the properties of one class from another class. In the same manner, we are acquiring the properties of enum from this enum. So indirectly we can say this enum is also a class here. Now, what it will be when we are going to use this enum keyword or enum class? In general, whenever we are going to have set of constant values, or simply we can say enum is a special data structure when we are going to represent fixed set of constants. That means what? Whenever we are going to have multiple constants, or whenever we are going to represent multiple constants, then in that case we are going to use enum. So for that, we also have one more keyword in Java, that is called final. So final keyword is used to represent the constant here, but I want to represent multiple values or multiple constant values or a set of constant values. In that case, we are going to use the keyword called enum. For example, I know already what are the possible set of values at compile time. So if I know some set of values to be executed at compile time, like we have a menu, and from that menu I want to choose any one option, for example. In that case, we can use enum. And we have some example. If we take days in a week, we know the number of days in a week are fixed. So starting from Monday to Sunday again. So these are the 7 days we are going to have in days here. So in such cases, these days are fixed here. So we can use the keyword called enum or enumeration data type. So like this, whenever we have a possible values at compile time, or whenever we have a fixed set of values at compile time, then in that case we are going to use enumeration type. So how we are going to write here? For example, so I am writing enum space variable I am writing, for example, I am writing day, then all possible set of values we are going to write here, like Monday, comma, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I am closing this brace. Now, so we can write like this. As we know, here day is a variable. Day is a variable. So for this day, we are going to fix some set of values here: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So there is a possibility of writing semicolon at the end here. This is optional, not mandatory. Without writing semicolon also, we are going to get the output. So like this, whenever we have a fixed set of values, in that case, we are going to use the enum. So what are the advantages we are going to get when we are using enum here? One is improves the code readability. That means what? How it is going to improve the code readability. That means whenever we are using enum, it is going to provide meaningful name for the set of constant values. As we are saying that enum is used to represent constant set of values here. At the same time, whenever we have meaningful names for set of constant values, then we are going to use enumeration type. So by this, it is going to improve the code readability. The second advantage of enum is ensures type safety. That means what? Whenever we are declaring a variable, it will take only predefined values. That means what? Whenever we are declaring the variable, for example, here the day is a variable, and for this variable, we are going to fix some set of values here. So like this particular variable is going to restrict to take the values which are not defined at this particular place. So by this, if you gave the any one value from these set of values, then only it is going to accept here. For example, I'm writing like this. Let us assume month space day I given. So in this case, it is not going to accept this value because which is not defined in this particular list. So in which format we given, in the same format if we use, then only it is going to accept, otherwise it is not going to accept. That means it ensures type safety. Means whatever the variable we are using, it the Java compiler with the help of enum will restrict the variable to take only predefined values. So by this, if we have invalid value, if we provide invalid value as an input here, it is going to give an error. So it is going to reduce the error which is given when we are giving invalid values. So it is going to restrict the variable to take only predefined values. By this, it is going to reduce the errors caused by invalid inputs. Now, second, how it is going to enhance the maintainability. So when we are using enum, it will allow us for easy modification in one place. So instead of modifying, for example, if we have a string and if we have a number, so we can modify anywhere in the program and we can modify any number of times. But when you are using enum, it will provide easy modification in one single place. We will see how it is, and also improves efficiency of the code. That means we can use this enum in for loops as well as the switch case statements also we can use. Enum can be used in abstract classes also. And it prevents magic numbers. Means what? So whatever the number we are giving, that numbers are by default like array, it is going to have some index here. First value is represented by 0. For example, if you give like this, by default, the index of Monday becomes 1 and the index of Saturday becomes 7. So like this, it is going to prevent the magic numbers. So whenever we want to improve the code readability, and whenever you are going to ensure the safety of type data, and it is whenever you want to enhance the maintainability, improves the code efficiency, and it also prevents the magic numbers. So whenever we need these facilities, we are going to use enumeration types. Possibilities of using this enum. So we are going to discuss the various examples. We are going to discuss the various examples regarding main method inside enum. We can write how to use main method or how to write the main method inside the enumeration type, and enum outside the class, enum inside the class, and initializing the specific values for the enum constants. That means, as we said now, it is going to allocate default values, but apart from the default values, how we are going to assign the required values, whatever the value you want to assign, we can assign for that particular variable, and define an enum with the help of for loop as well as switch case. These are the various case studies we are going to discuss in this video. And at the same time, what are the use cases? Here, we are going to discuss, we also cover the basic usage of enumeration type with simple constants. We are going to discuss one example for each and every case here. Enum with constructor and fields we can use, enum with built-in methods, enum with abstract methods, and implementing with interfaces and switch cases, as well as how we are going to create the complex enumeration types. So we are going to start with simple example, and we are going to complete this lecture by creating complex enumeration types with multiple fields as well as the methods. Now, before going to the first example, what we need to do is whatever the enumeration type we created here, for example, like this we wrote here. So whatever the enumeration type we wrote, by default, whatever the constants we declared under this enumeration type are static and final. So whatever the variables we have, these variables are static and final. So we know what is static and what is final. So final is just like a constant here, and static is a keyword which is used to represent the instantiation. Means what? Without creating an object, we are going to access the members of that particular class with the help of static. That means if the class is static, we can access, we can have the static variable, we can have static method, and we can have the static class. In the same manner, we have final variable, final method, and final class. What is the difference between these? We'll discuss later in detail, but for now, the final is a keyword which is used to create a constant. But instead of representing multiple set of constants, we are going to store one particular variable as a final variable. Whenever we are going to declare a final variable, that particular variable will not be changed. So during the execution process, the variable will not be changed. So if we declare final x, we cannot modify the value of x here. That's why we'll consider this final variable as a constant variable. If suppose, if I'm using the method as a final here, I wrote one method here, and we'll discuss also what is the method in detail in next video. So whenever we declare the method as a final, we cannot override that. Means what? We cannot change the definition of that particular method if we declare the method as a final. In the same manner, if we declare the class as a final, we cannot inherit. So it is not possible to inherit the class, final class, from any other class. In the same manner, whatever the properties we have for class, the same properties we are going to apply for enumeration type also. But remember that whatever the variables we declared in enumeration type, all the variables considered by default, the variables are the static variable and the final variable. So we can call this as an implicit declaration. Means what? The compiler itself, whenever we say enumeration type, enum, so these variables are considered as the static variable as well as the final variable. Now, so whenever we are going to create a set of constants, or whenever you are going to represent a set of constants here, at that time we are going to use enumeration type. At the same time, like classes, whatever the properties we have for class, the same properties we are going to apply for the enumeration type also. That means just like classes, we can use constructors in enumeration type, we can use uh, instance variable as well as instance method in the enumeration type, and we can also implement interfaces in the inheritance. That means, and also as we said now, these enumeration types can be used either inside the class or outside the class. So anywhere we can write. At the same time, so whatever the enumeration type we declared, as I said now, whatever the enumeration type we declared, which is going to inherit the properties of class called enumeration type. That means this particular enum is also considered as a class. But we cannot, like class, we cannot inherit directly. That means what? The enumeration internally inherits the class called capital E enum, but cannot inherit any other class. Whatever the properties we have in class, that properties we cannot acquire from enumeration type. So enumeration can acquire the properties of this capital enum, but it cannot acquire the properties of classes. For example, A and B are the classes. We cannot write like this. Enum extends A. We cannot write like this, but we can write enum. The whatever the properties we have in capital enum class, that properties we are going to acquire from this particular enum. So let us go for one by one. So I am also removing this here. Now, so for our simplicity to reduce the length of the video, what I will do is when I am typing a program, I will pause here, then I will continue that part. Okay. Now, so I wrote one simple example here. So class my demo, my class name is my demo, and I am writing enumeration type inside the class here. So public enum, the enumeration type name is season here. The variable name, whatever the variable we are using for this enumeration type is season. Now, so for this season, I declared some constants here. We know there are 4 seasons for us. These are the constants here: winter, spring, summer, and fall. So we once we define the various variables for this particular enumeration type, then I'm writing the main method here. Then in that, just I'm writing the loop here to access all the values from this particular season. So now for that, what I'm writing here, for season s season dot values means what? So season is the enumeration name and s is the object for this particular enumeration type. So with the help of this object s, we are going to access all the members of this particular enumeration type. So for season, I'm creating object called s, and then it is going to access all the values from this particular season. So for that, I am writing for loop here. So for season dot values, whatever the values we have in this particular season, all the values it is going to access here. Now, As we can see, values is the method here, built-in method we have. So whenever we are writing values here, what it will do? The Java compiler will internally adds the values method when it is creating a enum. The Java compiler use it to add the method called values by default. So what it is going to return? It is going to return an array of the values of that particular variable. How many values we have in that particular variable, or we can say simply we can consider this as an array here. So season dot values, it is going to print all the values from the season. How many values we have? All the values it is going to print here. So for that I am writing system.out.println s. What is SCF? In the first iteration, it is going to print winter. Second iteration, spring, summer, and fall. Let us see what is going to happen here. As you can see, so it is going to print all the values here. So we need to remember one thing here. Values is a method. So whenever we are using enum, the Java compiler internally adds the values method when it is created an enumeration type. So it is going to return all the values from that particular variable. So whatever the values we have in this enumeration class, all the values it is going to print here. So that's why we got this one. So if you take another example, if you do some simple modification for this. So here instead of class, I am writing enum here. Enum, sorry, small letters. Enum, my demo, and I am removing all this enumeration type. Like this also you can write. As there is no end brace, we need to write the semicolon here. Then, so enum, my demo, I given some variables here. Then constant values here, main method, and I want to access only one value. Then my demo. For my demo, I am creating object here s. Then my demo.winter, we are going to print the value of the winter here. When we run this code, as you can see, we got winter because we assign some value for this particular variable. So whatever the object we have, with the help of that object, we are going to access the member of that particular winter. So like this also we can write, this is case 2. Example, here same enumeration type we declared, color, and I took 3 colors called red, green, and blue. And next I declared the class called my demo, public class my demo, and main method I'm writing here. And this is the code where we are going to access the enumeration values here. So for that again I'm using for loop here. Color is the enumeration type, and color, see I'm creating object for the enum class here. Then color dot values, whatever the values we have, as you said, color dot values will access all the members of the class here. Then I want to print the index also. For that I'm writing here system.out.println c at index, whatever the values we have, c dot ordinal. So I'm using one more method called ordinal method here. So whenever we are using ordinal method, this particular method is used to return the index here. So as I said now, how many values we have, each and every value is going to have, by default, it is going to have one index which is allocated by the Java compiler. As like array, red is assigned to 0 here. The index is 0 for red, and index is 1 for green, index is 2 for blue, like this. So whatever the values I want to print the index also, then we are going to use c dot ordinal. So if we run this code, as you can see, red at index 0, green at index 1, and blue at index 2. So like this, and this is also outside the class here. We used enum outside the class, and inside the class we are going to access with the help of an object here. So whatever the enumeration type class name is color, and the C is object here. With the help of C, we are going to access all the values from the color class, enumeration class. Then we are going to print the index also. So simply if you said C, it is going to print all the values, and if you take at index, that it is going to print index also with the help of c dot ordinal. Here the basic advantage is, when you are trying to access the value or when you are trying to modify the value, here it is not possible for us to modify, because all the variables in enumeration type, as we said now, the variables are by default static as well as final. So whenever we have a final variable, it is not possible for us to modify. So that is a basic advantage of enumeration type. That means when you are using enumeration type, it is not possible for us to tamper in the text. We cannot tamper the text which is available in the enumeration type. So, as we said now, if the variable name is color here, for example, whatever the class we have color, for that we are going to create an object here. And this is of type enumeration type. So, each and every value what we have inside the enumeration type will be considered as a variable. So whenever, just like in Java program, whenever we have a string variable, whenever we have a number variable, we can modify. But whatever the variables we declared inside the enum, it is not possible for us to modify the value. So as I said now, red, green, blue, we cannot modify the content of that particular variable. We cannot say c dot red equal to some other color, we cannot assign like this.